Oh, how you doing? I don't. Here it is. I was- I got a late start this morning. Uh, anyway, um, anybody can is the sound okay in the video? Say something. I'm still having my coffee. I'm only half awake. Okay, what I'm going to talk about today are um, what are some things that some warnings, specific warnings, saying, look, you're starting off collecting watches. This is what you have to look out for. Hey, Kevin. Hi, Jean Luc. Um, Sound and videos. Okay, thank you very much. Glad to hear things are good in Switzerland. Here we're starting to become spring. It's good. Hey, Mr. Gumby, how you doing? Um, I'm off. I'm off on a late start. I started on time. I just didn't have an announcement for everybody. So anyway, today, as I started talking about, there are all kinds of things that new collectors run into and mistakes that they make. And so I thought, well, this would be a good one to start off with. Is that what are some watches that you probably wouldn't want to suggest somebody to buy, or some other kind of thing? Hey, Big Sal, how you doing? Um, so anyway, we're sort of off to a stumbling start so with this topic. Um, gee, I guess I'd like to blame it on daylight saving time, but it's my fault. I just didn't. I, I was we were pushed up an hour ahead, and it was sort of hard. Bunch of stupid excuses. So sorry about that. Hey, Gilberto and Tim and Neff, how you guys doing? Anyway, okay, so come on, let's talk about this. It's sort of like the kind of advice: don't take any wooden nickels. And I was thinking, saying, all right, I wouldn't buy this kind of watch if you're into watch collecting. What kind of watches would you probably not? Somebody says, well, here I've got these two watches. I have X and Y, and we'll say Y is sort of something to avoid. Um, so, what would you avoid? What would you say? I've been given advice. IWC not having in-house movements. Yeah, yeah. That's the kind of thing. This is one of the things I think I tell uh, new users. Hi, Thomas. Is that before you buy a watch, find out what is actually in it. Don't buy a watch that is evasive about what's in it. Not because that's necessarily a bad watch. I mean, let's say, for example, you get an a watch with an ETA in it. You pay a lot for it, more than you'd normally pay for a watch with an ETA movement, and so you're sort of like, watch out for those things. Look out. On the other hand, if they give you a really good price and a really good discount, and they tell you what's in there, even though if it's an ETA, ETAs aren't bad movements. Don't get me wrong. They have five different grades of movement. Some of them aren't so hot, but others of them are. I mean, others of them are pretty good. But the thing is that they're generally less expensive than one's own movement. So, in other words, it's cheaper to buy a bunch of ETA iboshes or just ETA movements, stick them in your watch, and not tell anyone about it. And so that's what you have to look out for. That's one of the things. Rancher, you're absolutely right. Um, study, study. This is the kind of thing you have to be aware of. Another thing. A lot of times, I've run into this problem. Um, is that I'll find a watch. It's really kind of watch I want, and it's got a great price. And what I found out, um, later on or right before I hit the buy button was that it was too small. I mean, there are a lot of watches out there that are very small, that are from another era, let's say, and somebody sees one and they say, "Oh boy, that's the kind of watch that I wanna have," and what they're expecting is something between, let's say, 38 and 41 millimeters, and they're getting something that's like, 32 millimeters, and but they get a good price on it. By the same token, you don't, one of these great giant watches that look like you're wearing a frisbee is another kind of thing. Watch out for that. Some huge watch. Gee, Geezer, Rancher Junior, Thomas, John, and Maria. Mr. Gumby, not getting carried away and buying too much too soon. Boy, Mr. Gumby, that is great advice. Uh, I know somebody doing that. So slow down. Yeah, yeah. I think one of the hardest virtues to have, and none of us are known for this virtue, at least I'm not, and that is having patience. I mean, man, you see something, you really want it, and sometimes, it's good to get it before, the rest of the world knows about it, but, that can happen sometimes, and that's important, but that is dependent on what the rancher was talking about. You better know what you're getting. Beware of the limitless numbers of choices. I don't know how you I hmm, yeah. Uh Let's see, figure out what's important to you. Yeah, that's hard to do. One of the things I think to avoid is a watch you don't like the looks of. I mean, everyone can say it. When once say everyone, or a lot of people that you listen to can say, "Oh, this is just a great watch. You're gonna love it." And then you look at it and you say, "Ah, that thing is ugly. That's not a watch I'd wear." If you're not gonna wear it, don't get it. In fact, if you can, and a lot of times this can be difficult, is to go try one on and see what it looks like. I did that with a certain brand. I'm not gonna mention what it is because it's really an excellent brand, and they're really beautiful watches, but when I tried them on, I they just didn't feel right. I mean, uh, they didn't have the kinda heft that I like. I mean, a good watch, I think, has a certain amount of heft in it because it's full of good stuff. I don't know. But there's a certain way that you pick up a really good watch and you can feel it. I know that sounds stupid, but you don't want something too light. Now, this is some watch companies and some watch types of watches go out of their way to make a watch light. The I forgot what it is. There's one by FP Journe. They made it out of aluminum. It was for runners and so forth. A great watch, but I don't know, wouldn't feel right. So those kinds of things. I think that's important. If you're not going to wear it, I really wouldn't. That again, you can hang it on your wall or something. I suppose. Enjoy the journey, which can be a lifelong. That's right. That's a great advice, Owen. But you get to a point where I don't know. I right now I have all of my watch money committed to one place right now. And it's going to be committed there until I don't know, June or something. Or something, but it's really hard not to see a watch I like and buy it. But you gotta that's sort of, I guess, one of the warning. Like I said, the virtue of patience isn't one that is known among watch collectors, like, oh boy," and off you go. But let's see, avoid gimmick-based watches, the 007 dial CMAS. Yeah, Big Sal, I'm the same way. I think the same thing. Here there's a watch, so they stick it on 007 or one of those. So what? I mean, that doesn't or the other thing that goes with it, there are some actors or celebrities that I really like a lot, and, but I would no more buy a watch on their recommendation than fly. It just that's not a they're basically getting paid to slap a watch on their wrist and say how cool they are. There's a what is it called? There's some kind of a lot of watch companies that do that, and they'll have these celebrities running around with stuff. And what you're doing, you're paying for not only the watch, but what the watch company paid the celebrity to say the watch was any good and what do they know about it. There was a remark made, probably one of the most valuable remarks ever made about watches, was at a I think it was in Singapore at a watch meeting, and Philippe Dufour, let me see who else was there. Kari Voutilanen, who else? There were Roger Smith. This is an incredible gathering. They who else? One other person. Um, I think it was Laurent Ferrier. And they had those 4 guys there, and somebody in the crowd asked, "Oh, what would you recommend for a watch under $10,000?" And boom, now those 4 guys, they came out, a couple of them like Rolexes, one of them, like, Voutilanen suggested Parmigiani, um, let me see, Philippe Dufour suggested Nomos Glashütte. Now those guys, everybody, those are guys to listen to, but first you have to know they're worth listening to. Um, so I mean, on the other hand, so I would say don't listen to celebrities. What they know about watches is little or nothing. Now, if you want to look like a celebrity, if you want to look like, I don't know, a rock star or something like that, and your favorite rock star has watches. There is a guy who is a collector who's a member of the band called Kiss. And he really knows watches, and as a collector, he knows them. And there are people like that, but you got to find out who they are before, but somebody who's given a bunch of I think oh, yeah, they call them. There was this one company, and they have these squads, this squad, that squad, and the other squad. What do they know about watches? Well, probably not a lot. Hi, Hobby. Hi, Loose Tooth. Um, Thomas, I'd advise beginning collectors to look beyond paid reviews. Oh, definitely. Paid reviews. I mean, you might as well read the ad copy from the watch. There are these. Yeah, you'll see that. What are they? They haven't. Are they called paid reviews? There's a certain kind of review that if you pick up one of these reviews and they'll have on there, they'll say something to the effect that sponsored. That's it. It's called a sponsored review. In other words, it's a paid review. Um, I mean, they tell you they may give you some specs about it, but I don't think they really tell you very much. I mean, they're not very useful. Hey, Tuna, how you doing? Hey, Mark. I do like current titanium 007, not because of the 007 link, just because it's on a color scheme. Yeah, now, Mark, and I think this is important. If you like something, let's say if you like a 007 because you happen to like that particular model, that's one thing. If you're getting it solely because of that, that's another thing. There was a watch that Bremont had it, English watch company. And I was in their boutique, and I'd interviewed the guy who was the head of it, Nick English, I think his name was. So I'd interviewed Nick, and they showed me this one watch that had some canvas, the little bitty piece of canvas that had taken from the wing of the Wright brothers plane. Oh man, wow. Now that's not going to make it any better watch. It's not going to change the fact that it was an ETA movement dolled up with Bremont writing on it. Now, since then, Bremont has come out with their own movement. That might be something worth looking into. But I do think those things are important. Hi, Radman, how you doing? Um, hey, William, how you doing? Okay, they say that George Floyd was a big fan of, Pagani designed Daytona. George Floyd, I don't know who he is. Um, Neff listen to actual user reviews, preferably after they've had it for a while. Yeah, that is a good idea. There was there was an article that I read not long ago. I think it was in the Watch Time newsletter they send out, and the article was about reviews in by magazines or newsletters such as their own that have ads from those companies. Um, and so it's sort of like so the reviews are sort of, they're not that oh, they're not offensive, I'll put it that way. It's sort of like I think in a lot of reviews, you gotta read between the lines, and the most important thing I think a review can do is give you as much information about the movement. I think that's important. You can look at the dial and the case and see if you like it or not. I mean, that doesn't take a reviewer to tell you should like it or not, unless there's something special it's made of, like mother of pearl or certain guilloche. But I think that the more information you have, the better. For example, oh, Ophion. Ophion is this little company. I think they're located in Madrid or Barcelona, one of the two. Anyway, they had done some things that I thought were really cool. They told you about the movement, where it was from, and the sort of the story behind it. They got their case from Wooten Lannon and Caton. They forgot about their dial, but they did their own hand. They had an hour hand they were very proud of that they had designed themselves. And and that was basically you can take a look at the watch, you can look at the price and decide whether you like it or not. But if you know what's in it and you know exactly what's in it, so and I think going back to Rancher's point, in order to know whether it's that good or not, you're gonna have to take time to do some research. Now, if there's somebody that I don't know. I was looking at started looking at a review this morning and didn't get video, watch video was, and it was about what was it called? It said don't trust reviewers or don't trust. This was a watch video about not trusting what the watch video uh, people said. I think that's good advice because some of the ones I've seen have had, especially in the negative. There was this one guy who was sort of a jerk to begin with, but that's that's not. I guess that's not something. But he was really down on Parmigiani because he couldn't pronounce it. And I thought, Jesus, this guy must be a genius or something. I don't know. Hey, Andres FG, what's up? Let's see. I like the 321 Ed White Speedy 2.5 hertz, no silicon. Ooh, I like it too, Andres. I love it, as a matter of fact. See, now the thing of it is why do I know I like it? First of all, it's got a lower hertz. It's under 3 hertz, which is nice. It doesn't have silicon. Um, yeah, there are those kinds of things that I like. Now, I one of my first luxury watches was a Patek Philippe, and it was too small and a lot of other things, but it was a wonderful watch, and I learned a lot about it, and I learned about the movement and this and that, and Patek Philippe, they're wonderful to work with. They provided me with the all of the information about when it was first produced and so on and so forth. I mean, that was great. Um, some people though, would they say, "Well, if it doesn't have the papers, I'm not gonna buy it." That's to me is n not necessarily good advice. Obviously, one piece of advice is don't buy a counterfeit one, which is a replica. That was the term, don't buy replicas. that I'd certainly advise against to a new person. But people worry about this. Well, I think this is a fake Rolex, uh, but it's got the paperwork. What's easier to make? With a laser printer, you know, and all the fonts you could want, is to phony up documents or to phony up a watch. Well, the documents are pretty easy. Let me know if you want a degree in nuclear science. I can fix you up. I got my laser printer standing by. I mean, those you have to sort of ask yourself those kinds of questions. That's why if I buy a watch and it doesn't have the original box or the original papers, I'm not too concerned about it. I'll tell you sort of an interesting thing. I got this. One of my Patek Philippe's came with a little card, and it had a hologram on it. This was and that was their guarantee that it was a real Patek Philippe. It was just looks, like a credit card, and but my second one didn't. So I took my resonance Patek Philippe. I took it down to the boutique in New York, and I asked him, I said, "Is there some way I can get some kind of documentation or papers on this?" And they said, "Yeah, here's what we do." So they took it down. They took it down to this basement. If you ever go to the Patek Philippe's boutique in New York, they have this basement. I have no idea. I'm always wondering what's going on in their basement down there. I don't ask. They don't tell me. But every now and then they'll take my watch down there and they come back with it and they say, okay, we did this, we did that. Well, this one time they took it down to the basement and they said, okay, we took a bunch of pictures of it and we'll send it off to Geneva and they'll take a look at it and so on and so forth. The next thing I knew, I got this sheet of paper signed by FP Journe with that little hologram on it saying that, yeah, this is a real thing. And so that kind of thing I think was worth something to me because I actually knew what happened. On the other hand, it was, some guy like me with a Xerox machine and no ethics whatsoever, you know, that's why the papers, don't worry about the papers. They're as easy to phony up as anything else. Uh, okay, loose tooth. Do research on anything you like before spending money. Also consider what size, if you can try it on. Yeah, I agree with that. I tell you something really funny. In 2016, right when the new overseas, the Vacheron Constantin overseas came out, I was all excited about getting one. So I had at that time I had my OS1, my original overseas, and so my idea was I'm going to run down and I'm going to trade in my overseas and get one of the new ones with this 5100 new movement that they put in. I was all excited about it. So I go down to the shop in New York to the boutique and tried it on and everything, and I looked like an overseas. The difference is that the older ones had 8, little sort of horns on it, and the new ones had 6. I tried it on, and it was okay, like, that, but they wouldn't take a trade-in, so I thought, "Well, I'll look around," and they said, "Oh, by the way, well, we have another one that just came out with the same movement called the Quadrille." And I said, "Oh, let me try it." I liked it better. It was less expensive and everything else, but it had nothing to do with it. I just liked it. And when I tried it on, it looked better on me. Now, it turned out that the very unpopular watch, which means some good deals are available. And they discontinued it. I don't know when, a few years ago, I guess. They didn't have it out for very many years. Man, oh man, I tell you, I'm always tempted to just sort of like, what the hell, I'll get it anyway. This is about having patience and good judgment. Oh, let's see. The big thing is not to get suckered down the fake watch road. Yeah, very, very true. Better off buying something genuine in a similar price bracket. You may fool others, but you can't fool yourself. Yeah, Mark, that's a good point. I think they have, what do they call these, super fakes now, or super replicas, and yeah, I think you're right. There's something else too. This is why the way a watch feels, it's if it feels right, just holding it, I don't know. You don't know what's going on inside. They could put lead weights in there to have the right heft for all I know, but that's important to me. Confirms all of his watch purchases with the coats. That's right. I bought a ton of watches without documents and sold them for profit after. Never has worried me. Just need your own due diligence. Yeah, Thomas, yeah, I think, there's certain places too that you can buy from and you feel pretty good about. And so a lot of people say, buy the seller on that. So that's an important thing. If you don't know where you are going, you'll end up somewhere you don't wanna be. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That reminds me of a story when we moved about, oh god, about 25 years ago or so, when we moved out to Connecticut and we didn't know our way around. My wife went up to Boston to see we had I think some of the kids were living up there. One of our kids was living there at the time. So she goes to Boston and she didn't know how to get back. So she sees a car with Connecticut license plates and follows it. But fortunately, it was coming home back to Connecticut. And she was able to fight her way back. But, so you got to be careful who you follow. And just because they have you know, all right. I much prefer the smaller size watches. Tuna, people who like the smaller size watches, I think if I don't, because I just don't. Well, probably one of the reasons is that so I can see them. That may be one thing. And other people have better eyesight than I have. But if you like smaller watches, I think that's a big, big bonus, uh, because you can find better deals on them. I for at least ones I find, say, oh boy, I'd really like to have that. And then I find out that it's not the right size. So my warning is new collectors is be wealthy in a minute. My 41 date just is only 40.5 millimeters, almost a tad small for me. My God, William, big guy. Like you were the guy that had the run in with David in the slingshot, huh? Hi, Alim. Rule number one: the price is too good to believe. Yeah, yeah, it's not always true. But by and large, you're right, Alim. I think, yeah, I do agree with that. There was a guy that I went through a number of interactions with, and boy, he had a good price, and so, but there was something wrong, just wrong, and and I don't know how to explain this. If you don't feel that a deal is right, walk away. Just walk away. And it's intuitive, and sometimes you may be wrong about it. Let's say you don't trust guys wearing berets, so if it's not right, just walk away. If you can't buy the watch more than once, you can't afford it. It's true. You can't buy the seller. All right, Rancher, you're right about that. The 13th Amendment. Good point. Hey, Tim, thoughts on sticking with the iconic piece early on? I'm tossing up whether to play it safe with a speedy or go for something a bit different with the Aquaterra World Timer. I don't know. It's sort of like there's safety in conformity. I sort of, I, to me, there's overpricing in conformity too. But that's, it's not terrible advice. It's you know, it's more like I don't know. I tell you, I think bad advice might be is worry about the resale value. I don't the reason I don't think that's good advice is that you're not paying attention to the quality of the watch. You're paying attention to the quality of getting rid of the watch, and I don't think that's the way to buy a watch. Okay, one more. Hey, Dave. I was offered a Grand Longa 1 moon phase at 40% off from an AD, and now it's up to 20,000. So there are some great deals from time to time. David, you're absolutely right. I agree with that. I think this watch I got had it was still unused. It had originally been 44,000, and I got it for 15. And it was I knew the watch, I knew all about it. The dealer was he was honest and well known and so forth. Turned out to be a fabulous watch. And but the thing is that it just I got it at a time when they couldn't sell the watches, and it was a turned out to be a great watch. So, I sometimes. Okay, guys. Tim, let's see. Hey, Abdul, how you doing? Abdul, yeah, sorry about that. We'll be back this afternoon. Listen, sorry guys about the last second, almost no notice at all about our discussion. It's time for me to go, as a rancher is telling me about it. Hey, Captain Zed. Um, so at 4 o'clock New York time. Now, 4 o'clock New York time is let me see if I can figure this one out. Rats. Hang on a second. Nah, I can't open up anything. Okay. If we go by GMT time at 2100 hours GMT time this afternoon, we'll have another one. And uh, Europe and England, I guess England part of Europe, and a lot of Central and Eastern Europe, they don't go on to daylight savings time until March 27th, and so the U.S. is on daylight saving time, and most of the rest of the world isn't. So we have this gap right now. So okay, guys. So pay attention to the what I just said. I forgot what it was. At the so if At 2100 hours Greenwich Mean Time. All right. That one stays steady. It doesn't go back and forth between daylight and otherwise. So see you then. I hope. Take care and be safe. Oh man. Hey, in a minute. All right. See you guys.